this whole scene, everybody dies.
Everybody's gonna die! I'm gonna kill everybody!
The year is 1997. I was a 10-year-old kid and my dad brought me to see Spawn the movie.
The battle between heaven and hell has waged eternal. Their armies fueled by souls harvested on Earth. The devil Malbolgia has sent a lieutenant to Earth to recruit men who will turn the world into a place of death in exchange for wealth and power. A place that will provide enough souls to complete his army and allow Armageddon to begin. All the Dark Lord needs now is a great soldier. Someone who can lead his hordes to the gates of heaven and burn them down.
Now, if you're not aware how big of a deal Spawn was in the 90s, he was the biggest comic book character by far. The first issue of Spawn alone sold 1.7 million copies. That's more than the average big superhero comic books sold at any time. I think the closest financially that a comic book's ever gotten to Spawn was the Star Wars comic books that came out in the last like 10 years or so, but still nowhere near 1.7 million copies. And when it finally came time to see the movie, you better believe I was excited. So what can I say about the Spawn movie? Does it hold up today? If you're an avid Spawn reader and you grew up with Spawn, I would say yes, it still holds up pretty well today.
Damn.
There are parts, of course, that make this movie very weird. There are parts that don't make sense with the movie, and there are gaping plot holes within the movie. It didn't help that Spawn came out being a PG-13 movie. This movie should have been an R rating. The director's cut of the movie, even though it doesn't really offer anything extra than the PG-13 version, aside from director's commentary with Todd McFarlane in the making of the movie and a few cuss words thrown in, it doesn't really change the whole aesthetic of the entire movie.
Holy shit!
But Spawn being as dark and as gruesome as it was in the comic book form, you would think that the movie would kind of be on that same level, seeing as how popular Spawn actually was.
The double jeopardy answer is... who is...
About to take your head off.
The world has waited long enough. Spawn. From HBO Home Video.
I think the PG-13 rating is what actually did the movie in and kind of made it commit financial suicide. If you're an avid comic book collector and reader and you're going in to see a movie based off of a commander in Hell's army, a general in Hell's army taking out demons and monsters and thugs and criminals and all this stuff, you're expecting to see an R movie. But watching the movie again, and yes, I've watched the movie throughout the years, but re-watching it this last week, I was like, wow, this movie is actually really, really faithful to the source material. The way that Spawn acts, the way that the clown acts, the storyline is pretty close to the source material of the comic books. Sure, there's a lot of things changed, like Al Simmons isn't murdered by Chapel like he was in the comic book. He's murdered by Priest and Wynn in the movie. Those are small changes. Those are things I can get past to get to general audiences that try to make sense of this convoluted comic book movie. The part where the clown does the stupid dance when the cheerleading outfit, that could have been cut from the movie altogether. The clown had a lot of comedy throughout the film. It didn't need these extra weird things thrown in that kind of just like didn't fit with the entire movie and kind of took you out of it.
What a pretty little dress. I wonder if she's got it in my size.
Bonnie's funny, he's our man. If he can't kill him, no one can. Yeah, he's funny. S to the P to the A to the 1. S to the P to the A to the 1. Goes funny, goes funny.
A quick synopsis of Spawn. Spawn is an ex-Marine CIA agent assassin. He's one of the best in the entire world. Takes care of all of the crazy shit that we're never gonna be able to know. Hell has a plan that they want to go conquer God and take down God. So they recruit Al Simmons without him knowing. He's murdered, he goes to hell, he makes a deal with Malboja to see Wanda again as long as he leads Hell's army up to heaven to burn it down. And then in the comic books, Spawn ends up wanting to defy Malboja and not use his Hell powers while still giving judgment, kind of like Ghost Rider. In the movie, it's not well as explained of why Al Simmons doesn't want to use his necroplasm powers.
Kiss it goodbye, clown.
This is just what they want. You're playing their game.
Then I'll play dirty.
Guns are useless.
You got a better idea. I might.
In fact, I don't think it's really touched upon in great detail except for the last part of the movie for about 30 seconds. The weird topical thing in this movie is when I was watching the part about Jason Wynn describing his plans for Heat 16, it reminded me a lot of what's going on in our current time with a certain virus that could end up getting my channel flagged if you say it in videos.
There it is, Jess. Finally ready. Heat 16. Makes the Ebola virus look like a skin rash. That North Korean biochemical operation really paid off. We have harvested the ultimate weapon from those diseased bodies. And now we have the only vaccine.
Was there ever any doubt?
Never. Now we have weapons in place to disperse Heat 16 over half of this godforsaken globe. Soon the whole world will be at my command. Anyone who refuses to join my consortium won't be around to argue.
Now, the last part of the movie with the chase between Spawn on the motorcycle and the clown in the truck and going to Wanda's house was really confusing. It doesn't make sense with the overall storyline, and there's plot holes of why and how Jason Wynn knew that Terry had the plans for Heat 16. It's just all really confusing.
I love the smell of burning asphalt in the morning.
Cagliostro being a big key character to Spawn in the comic books, at least at the beginning, he's kind of more of like a side character throughout the movie. We kind of know he's important, but at the same time he's kind of not important until the very end of the movie when he goes to hell to fight with Spawn.
I can't afford to be wrong.
Still with us, I see.
Like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a very nostalgic movie. And if you are an avid Spawn reader, like I said, and not the casual audience, and you're watching this movie, you're gonna agree that a lot of this is very true to the source material of the comic books. A lot of it's changed to be edible by general audiences or whatever feasible, but in reality, the movie's not that bad. And when you think about it, Spawn being like the third or fourth comic book hero movie ever made in 6 years of his release just goes to show how huge Spawn actually was in the 90s. And superhero movies were also treated a lot more different back then. They weren't treated as serious as they are now, where you're seeing like Marvel and DC and everything like taking over Disneyland, well, Marvel is, and making these gigantic movies that seem to come out every year that make millions and millions of dollars. Superhero movies were not like that in the 80s and the 90s. They weren't like that at all. Just look at how in the early 2000s, like the Spider-Man movies were treated by the time Spider-Man 3 came out. It will show you how serious comic book movies were actually being taken back then.
Eddie, the suit. You gotta take it off.
Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
If I were to judge Spawn on the comic book movies of that time era up till Spawn, I'd probably say Batman and then Spawn were probably the best 2 comic book movies that I had ever seen that were faithful to their source materials for the most part. If I were judging this on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give Spawn an 8. I'll be honest with you, it's a solid 8.
Did, like, Satan send you guys? How come God hogs up all the good followers and me get all the retards?
If the movie was rated R and it was more true to the source material than it was in the movie, if it was closer to like the HBO series, which is, in my opinion, almost a perfect 10, it'd be like a 9.5, which I'll do a review on those later. But if it was closer to that, then yeah, the movie would be a high 9, most likely. The CGI for that time was really good for Spawn and the Violator. I don't know what happened with the CGI for Hell or the CGI for Malebolgia. Malebolgia looks really bad. Like really, really bad.
This is the bargain. If you lead my army, you can see Wanda again.
That's why I feel like almost like Malebolgia was done at the end of the movie's production. They were either running out of movie or materials, and they didn't do any sort of like live action puppet for Malebolgia like they did with the Violator and Spawn's costume. All in all, if you're looking for a really good comic book hero movie out of the 90s that not a lot of people talk about anymore, and for some reason it's shit upon now in modern day, I think people are not giving Spawn a fair chance because they didn't grow up reading the comic book. I think if you read the comic book and watch this movie, you're gonna be like, holy crap, this is actually pretty true to the source material. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but when I was watching it again, I was like, wow, you know what, this is actually like, some of these lines are word for word in the comic book.
So yes, God. Master and I gonna have words. He knows I hate clowns. God, I hate them. I hate them all. I hate Bozo, Ronald, Chuckles, with their freaking dumb noses and their lousy party hats. I don't mind being short, fat, and ugly, but the pay sucks.
Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to look out for the next movie review that I do, and yeah, go watch Spawn, buy Spawn, read Spawn. I'll see you guys on the next movie review.